Ms. Greenwood Graham of Affected Families of Police Homicide, Ontario. Are you present? Oh, yes, you are. Please come forward. You've seen any chair you like. Please be seated. You've seen the drill. You have 5 minutes to make your opening remarks. Please begin now.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. November 2007, my son Trevor was shot and killed by Waterloo Police. The next morning, I had 2 people come to me and tell me my son had died. I was given a card for Affected Persons Coordinator at the Special Investigations Unit, and they left. I was devastated, very angry, confused, in denial, punched holes in walls. That much I do remember. I started connecting with other affected families in any way I knew. I would attend funerals, whatever, to be a peer support for them and create an advocacy group which was well needed. The only way I know to explain this to others, like what it's like having your leg amputated and having no help. No home supports, no physiotherapy, no follow-up calls, no visits, no crutches, no coping counseling, nothing. We get nothing. You and each of your family members learn to live with the amputation every day after that loss. There are families like me who had to give up good jobs. They were no longer able to function, and with all this anger and grief, we are mentally and financially crippled. And some are living on social assistance like myself, and I have been for 10 years now. This cost alone should warrant putting good trauma supports in place. Many of us have seen the videos of our loved ones killed just before the coroner's court, which is long after we need to see it. We see it on social media, we see it on the media. It's and just like Sahar Bahadi, Sami Yatim's mother, she's part of our group. It's a devastating effect. It's a very cruel and inhumane to deal with someone who has lost a loved one to a trusted state-sanctioned policy of shoot to kill. We see these images daily in our mind. It is well recognized that a traumatizing event can paralyze a first responder. But what about the families? What about the families of someone that loves this person that was shot and killed and has no answers? And we have nobody to help us. Over the years, I've worked with the Citizens Advisory for Federal Corrections since then. I'm a member of Parents for Children's Mental Health, and I'm an original member of the Lived Experience and Family Expert Panel at CAMH. At CAMH, we consult with doctors, researchers, the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, Canadian Mental Health Association, and community groups. I went back to college at 54 to learn more. I became a social service worker. I wanted to know more about the psychology of how I could support others. Feeling alone, I started contacting other families who lost loved ones, and we are the Affected Families of Police Homicide. We've met and consulted with policymakers all over in the 8 years, primarily the Ombudsman a number of times, the SIU, the Ministry of the Attorney General. I've met with Yasser Naqvi personally. I've met with Marie-France Lalonde, the Minister of Community Safety Correctional Services. I've met with her team as well. I've met with the Ontario coroners, a number of them, and particularly Dr. David Eden, Justice Michael Tulloch. When he did the police oversight review, I was the first one to get an email from him because it was well known in government circles that we do have solutions that we can bring to the table. The Justice Tulloch really listened and asked important questions of all the families present, which was reflected in Chapter 4 of his report to the Ontario government. We were in a private meeting with Justice Tulloch just yesterday. I also heard Kathleen Wynne say all Ontarians deserve trauma supports. And that was when my light went on and thought I have to present to this committee. Based on research and knowledge, we want to see Justice Tulloch's recommendations for support to us brought forward. We want you to look at it, and we want you to actually, I would like to be involved in that at the table because there are certain ways it can be done easily and not so hard, and it can be streamlined. The other thing I'd like to see is a whistleblower program for policing. I would really like to see that. Having consulted with many police in the province, ex-police, I feel, and when you look at all sides of it, we all suffer in this. And I want to see trauma supports for police as I do our families. This is a very positive way to keep Ontarians safe. This is part of the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Greenwood. Graham, we now pass to the PC side. Ms. Scott.
Okay. Thank you very much. I was so involved in your story. I'm, first of all, very saddened. And I thank you and admire you for your strength of what you have been able to go on with and to try and help with yourself, with families, and with police officers in a very holistic approach. So I appreciate the fact that you've done that. For some recommendations, I don't know if you've read the bill in depthly. Is there some way that we, that within this bill, that we can expand on what you have done in your work?
I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a question perhaps I would put back to you. Is there, I haven't read the bill back to front.
It's a lot, don't worry.
It's
I'm
a
just
lot.
not
I know, I
asking,
have it
but
at
in
home.
general. Yeah.
But I have spoken with Justice Tulloch personally, and we've talked about the things that I want to see in that. And this is one of the things that, since I formed this group and organized, and we've been advocating for changes in policing and oversight and coroner's inquests, you know, I just want to be part of the change that's good for everybody. That's all I'm here for. I want to see everything happening that should be done, and trauma supports are one big thing. That's what I started this group for. That's what I'm doing here today.
I can only imagine how you felt that morning when, I mean, what could, you need to be, I think, if I can pull on my nursing from 20 years that I did, right then, it sounds like, and we always learn from past behaviors, there should have been a group of people either that were at that doorstep with you or that were immediately activated to come in, because I couldn't imagine, you know, who knows who has what family supports different people have. Some don't have any, some have some, but that real counseling from people that have been trained in trauma counseling. So I apologize that that did not happen. And I think we all
Not your
do.
fault.
I know it's not my fault personally, but just in general, I don't think anybody, you know, looking back, wanted you to go through that alone. That there should have been more
Shattered
support.
our family. My son, my second son, is now, he's in trauma because of it.
Yeah, we have to do better, and
We do.
you know, it ties into the. I think what we've all been talking about is more supports for trauma, for when mental health situations occur.
Yeah.
How things can be so much more improved
Yeah.
in our society, and you know, police officers themselves. You know,
Yeah.
now the calls are up. You know, 1 in 6 are now calls dealing with mental health, as opposed to 1 in 20. So I just wanted to. I know we only have a few minutes, but I wanted to thank you for your courage and what you've done and all your work, and continue advocating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. NDP, Mr. Natashak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Greenwood, Graham. My condolences. And I cannot imagine and never want to have
He was
to.
married, and when he died, my grandchildren died.
Thank you for your strength for being here today and continuing on what I believe is honoring your son's memory and legacy and the work that any great mom would endeavor to do if they had the strength that you obviously have. Not knowing the circumstances around your son's death, I just generally, I would pose the question to you that, you know, we see an explosion of interactions with people between the police who have mental health needs, who have drug and addiction needs, who are poor simply because they're poor puts them in interaction with police forces.
That's exactly what trauma does to us.
Yeah. Do you believe that I've listened and I heard that post-incident trauma support is important, and I would agree, but on a proactive level, would enhance investments in mental health supports and addiction counseling and crisis intervention supports, do you think that that would play a role in lessening the incidences of police violence on, interactions between civilians?
I think a complete overhaul of the education of police would be in order to do that. We have a lot of things we would like to see happen. I'm concentrating on this one thing today, only because it was my original goal, and it's still my goal. There are many things that we've met with ministers about. And Justice Tulloch, as I said to him, why are we doing this again? They didn't implement everything that was in your report. They handpicked.
So what are the specifics out of the Tulloch report the glaring omissions that you could point to for us?
Well, at 4.65, it does explain in chapter 4 that we deserve supports. And it does say in there that he feels that the SIU should have the funding to have a coordinator, a bigger amount of resources to support affected families. And I have talked and worked along with Nikki Buchok, who is the affected persons coordinator at the SIU. I brought solutions to the table, but a lot of people's hands are tied because, number one, they don't have the funding, nor is there the political will. That is what we need to see, is the political will.
And in terms of funding, is there a number that's associated with the added resources that you can point to?
The government side, Ms. Wong.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Greenwood-Graham, for being here today and your continued advocacy work. I know it continues to be painful to talk about this topic, but I want to say thank you for your advocacy work, because now not only we get your written submission, we're here seeing the face of the family, which is very important. And what I'm hearing today, your presentation and your written submission, you're focusing on the ongoing victim support. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, you could use the terminology victim, but I think affected families
Okay.
probably sits with the public and a lot of people involved as to who we are. Yeah.
And the other piece here is, you should probably know that through your conversation and your meeting with Minister Nakveen, Minister Lalonde, that the government has providing support for the first time this past summer dealing with the coroner's inquest. And I know that we're dealing with the jurors as well recently. The
Yes.
support, which is really important, that post-PTSD.
Vicarious trauma. Yeah,
Exactly.
of course.
So I'm also hearing your comments made that we need more expanded services and support, because these kinds of trauma, quite long-lasting, not just 1 year, 2 years, that kind of stuff. I'm hearing it could be, in your case, over 10 years, in my recollection. I'm just
I'm
reading.
still in treatment
Yeah, it's over 10 years ago
for
since your son
post-traumatic
was
stress
killed.
disorder.
So are there anything else you could suggest that we could do better in this proposed legislation in terms of supporting families, beside the dollars and cents?
Well, the Justice Tulloch has recommended that, and I'm wondering where exactly it is, 4.9, I think it was, or 4.6. There are many in the 4th chapter about supporting the affected persons, and he uses that term. Affected persons support staff should make initial contact with affected persons who are not witnesses. They should maintain ongoing proactive communication with all affected persons throughout the investigation. But beyond that, there should be trauma supports. And I mean, that's right in his report. He's so right. He listened, and I think that was wonderful.
Well, thank you very much again for being here and your written submission. Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong, and thanks to you, Ms. Greenwood-Graham, for your deputation and presence.
Thank you.